guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you are a first time viewer. Today we're going to be doing story time. I haven't done one of these in a while and I thought that my life was quite boring, but now I'm sort of like planning videos. I think there are probably some like uni stories which I could probably now tell. I don't know, but today we're going to start off with my nightmare neighbour story. Now, I'm sure most people have got a nightmare neighbour story, but my one was like the police were involved, there was cameras, like we were being spied on, and it kind of felt like the neighbourhood was ganging up on us. So to set the scene, it was when I was in my second year of university, and if you don't know, most students live in halls for the first year of their university career, and then they move on to private sort of residential areas. So I went to Liverpool, and Liverpool has 4 universities, or like 3.5 universities really, in the city, so there's a lot of students, and so these students sort of tend to live in the same 2 areas, which is Kensington or Kenny and Smithdown Road or Smithdown. I lived on Smithdown for my second and third year, and this story takes place in my second year, so my first private house, and I lived with 5 other girls. One did move out shortly after all this happened. Actually, I don't know if something sort of, she felt very uncomfortable or what happened, but yeah, I moved in first and I was there for like 2 weeks before everyone else because I just moved up because it was my friend's party, and her name was Anna and she lived in the house as well, and so we decided we were going to have a party and then others would like go home because they all kind of live locally anyway. But that was in early September, so we say party, but it wasn't like a raving house party. This was just pre-drinks at our house. So everyone sort of came over for about 8 o'clock. We were getting ready. I reckon there was about 10 of us max. So there was the 6 girls and then just some of her family friends from back home. So there was probably like 10 or 12 of us in this house. And the house was laid out so it was kind of back to front because a lot of the normal rooms had been converted into bedrooms. So you had Rosie's bedroom at the front, which would have been the front bedroom, with the front room, sorry. Then you had Anna's bedroom, which would have been the dining room, and then our living room was like a big kitchen dining room. So we were all right at the back of the house, so we were nowhere near the street. The windows were probably open because it was September and it was still quite hot. But it was about 8 o'clock and we had some music playing, but not ridiculously loud, and there was sort of like the chitter chatter of 10 or 12 people, and you know, just laughter. It's a birthday party, you're allowed to be happy. And we got this knock on our door and we thought, well, we haven't invited anyone else, so we don't know who this is going to be. And I think I opened the door, or there was 2 of us who went to the front door, and it was our next door neighbour. Now Smithdown, as I said, is mostly a student area, but it is a residential area, so there are other residents there. And it turns out that our neighbour, who I will call Terry because I can't actually remember his real name, he was like a 70-year-old man, and his whole family lived on our street. Okay, he'd been there for years, but so did the students. And he knocked on our front door and he just said, "Oh, can you just keep it quiet?" And we were like, yeah, that's fine, we're going out at about 10 o'clock, so it'll be quiet before them. Now in the UK, the rule is that you have to have the noise down by 11 o'clock, I think it is, or it might be midnight, I think, but you know, usually like 11 o'clock people wind it down to be polite to the neighbours, but this was about 9 o'clock at night. So we're like, yeah, we're going to go out in about an hour's time, and we were like, that's fine, okay. And I think we were a little bit late going out, so we said we'd be out by 10, and I think by the time the taxis actually got there it was about 10:15, half 10. And we had another knock on the door at 10 o'clock, and it was like, you said you were going to be out by now, you need to turn the music off, you need to stop this party, this ruckus, look how many people there are here. And we sort of were quite shocked that he was being so harsh, especially because we were new, and before this he'd always seemed really pleasant and nice, and like he just seemed really off that night. And he'd actually phoned the police, and he told us that he'd phoned the police, and if we weren't quiet by 10:30 then we'd all be arrested and blah blah blah. And the police didn't turn up, or maybe they did turn up and we'd already gone by that point. But that was the first incident, and we sort of thought, great, like, we're students, we want to party, and we're being told by our neighbour that we can't even have any friends round after 9 o'clock. Like, that's not really that fun. And it was a weekend. This wasn't like midweek or anything like this. This was like Saturday night. And so a couple of weeks later we had another birthday in our house. I think it was Ashley's birthday, I can't remember. And so we had another party, which wasn't a party, it was a pre-drink, and we were all gonna go out that night. And then there was more of the guys that used to live in our hall block. They came because she was dating one of them, and the others were all quite friendly with them. I wasn't the biggest fan of them, to be honest. They were all that sort of like laddie guys, and they all came, and so there was probably, I'm gonna go 15 of us, 15 max, and they were loud and they were raucous. But again, this was a Saturday night, and it was definitely before 9 o'clock. I think it was even earlier than it was the time before. And the police got called again, and they came round and they said, your neighbour is actually in the wrong here, you guys are fine, just maybe turn the music down, but your neighbour is in the wrong here, so we're going to go and have a word with your neighbour, because he's actually wasting police time by calling us out, you're not doing anything illegal. And yeah, so then they went to go and speak to Terry, and apparently Terry had been in cahoots with some neighbours that were opposite us, so not directly opposite us, but the house that way from us. And he was going on to the police, who then came back the next day and told us all this information because the complaint had been logged. Came back and said that they had cameras, and which is fine. You can have cameras pointing at your own front door and your own property, but you're not allowed to have them into the street. And what he said that the neighbours had done was pointed their cameras at our house and were filming our house, which is completely and utterly illegal, and had evidence of people urinating in the street. They had evidence of parties going on until the early hours. They had evidence of like just really stupid things, and it was things that you could see through our window, which really unnerved myself and Rosie, because we had the front 2 bedrooms, so mine was upstairs above Rosie and Rosie was downstairs. And like from that moment on, we never opened the blinds, we never opened our curtains, because they were like having their camera pointed in our house. So that I think like they actually got fined for that, I'm not sure, and they had to take their camera. I knew that their cameras got taken down because you could see that they were taken down, so I think those neighbours were got a bit of a slapped wrist. And yeah, so my neighbours for that year are a bit of a nightmare, and we stayed there for the whole year, and then I was the last one to move out, and I was actually there on the day handing the keys over to the new girls that were living there, and they were going to go into their second year, so they were the year below me. And I sort of did warn them, and I said, look, just so you know, next door is a bit of a nightmare neighbour. He will probably report you to the police, but don't worry, the police are fully aware of what he goes on about. And they seemed a little bit meh. A little bit shocked by that, especially the mum that was there as well. She was like, oh my god, so I don't have any problems. I said, yeah, but we thought that as well. And you know, he was phoning them at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So that was that. That was my fun nightmare neighbour. I haven't really had any other experiences that are nightmare neighboury. Maybe I'll talk about my neighbour that's living upstairs now. I don't know. Thanks so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this nightmare neighbour story, then please hit the subscribe button because I'm gonna have so many more story times. I quite enjoy doing these now. So yeah, and if you have any Nightmare Neighbours stories, put them in the comments because I'm quite nosy and I like knowing about other people's life. Until next time guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye!